Hi everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the drawings and, like what you're going to need to do to be able to set them up. So in your cover sheet, you're going to need your part balloons, you're going to need a bill of materials, you're going to need your cube from the typical isometric view, you're also going to need your cube from the bottom left isometric view. So let me show you how you're going to create that first. You're going to run into your final assembly quickly. Again, the front, right, and top is your default isometric view. We want the exact opposite. So we're going to slide over to the not that corner, but this corner here, where we can see the back, left, and bottom. And then we're going to click on this down here, and we're going to say named views. We can create a name of like all sorts of views that we want to use later on in drawing. So I'm going to name this bottom ISO, and I would hit the check box, or the plus box, excuse me, right? And it says I already have that, so I'm just going to leave it. But you would click the plus box, and then you would see that down here. So when we run back now to our drawings, we can delete that one for the moment. We can place, and I'm going to select my final assembly, and then for my view orientation, I'm going to slide all the way to the bottom where it says bottom ISO, okay? And I've got some other views in there too, but I'm going to select bottom ISO. And then I'm going to drop that bottom ISO onto the sheets. All right, just like always, we're going to shade it. And we're also going to once again add our part numbers to this, okay? So that it's just super clear what each one is. Now, as far as our bill of materials is concerned, all we really need is something under part number, the color, and then like part or piece, right? So my part number 1 is my teal part, and I can see that over here too. My part number 2 is my red part. I can see that there and there. Part number 3 is purple. Part number 4 is gray. And part number 5 is my blue. Okay, we need the title, and we need to make sure that our scale is accurate. That's the cover sheet. Okay, moving on to the next sheet. It is our exploded view sheet. So let me show you how you're going to pull this in. You've already created your exploded view in your assembly. But in order to bring this in here, we're going to once again place a view. It's going to be our final assembly, but instead of underneath explode in position it's saying default, we're going to select the explosion that you created for this piece, okay? And in my case, I think it's explosion 1. I've got obviously not, apparently not, have explosion. Oh, actually, the other problem that I have right now is I really want to be in an isometric view. So I'm going to select my isometric view, and there's one of my exploded views. I do think it's exploded 1. So I'm going to bring that up, and I can drop that into my view. And again, this is also going to be shaded. And again, it's also going to have part balloons, and it's also going to have a bill of materials. All right, so I'm going to delete this and go back to this one because this is what it should really look like. Part balloons, bill of materials, proper scale, layout. There should be a white gap of some sort between all of your parts, and find the part that's like the anchor part, the thing that everything else kind of goes around, and then build off of that as you create your exploded view. And if you still have questions about the exploded view because you didn't do it, then check out my video on the exploded view that was turned in before. Alright, so then I have my individual views, and we're actually going to talk about this to begin with here in sheet number, that sheet right there, but we can see my colored isometric, my orthographic, my name, my proper scale, all of that's going to be associated. But I want to talk to you guys about selecting the best front view. So we're going to be working in this one here on my purple part. Okay, now when I look at my part itself, and I look, when I drew this in this direction here, and then I bumped this like little piece off of the back. And that really just has to do with like the fact that when I look at my purple part from this direction here, that is really what it looks like. I see my C, and then I see the thing like push off towards the back. But the problem here is that our front view on our drawings should be our most detailed view. So if I were to select my front view for my drawing, I would be missing, in this case, this like bump out here on the back. This thing here. Technically, although my model says that this is the back view, or the back of the part, this is still my most descriptive view because it's not going to show a hidden line later on. And I'll show you what I mean in my drawing. So when we come into here, we are going to insert part 2. Okay, so if I just did this as its default, and I drop this view in like this, and I turn down my hidden lines, we can see that something is back there from my hidden lines, but we really can't see what it is. Okay, and I'm not saying that hidden lines shouldn't be in your front view, because sometimes they are, but if we can choose a view that has less hidden lines or no hidden lines at all, that's better than having a view that has more hidden lines. Okay, so I'm going to double click on this again, and now I've realized, and like I just showed you too, that it's not the front of my part that I really want, but it's the back. So before I put my other views in, because it won't work after you project your views, you'd have to delete those. But while you just have your front view, we're going to change the view orientation to, again, your most descriptive, most detailed view of your part, which again, in my case, is my back view. Now I can project this up, I can project this over, and I can project this into my isometric view. My isometric view should not have hidden lines on, so I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to shade it. I have my hidden lines on for my other view, so now it's time to do the dimensioning. So when dimensioning, ladies and gentlemen, here, we really need to think about the height, the depth, and the length. Remember, in our front view, we can see the height and the length. In our side view, we can see the height and the depth as it goes from front to back. And then in the top view, we can see the length and the depth as it goes front to back. Okay, so for the most part, you probably will be able to dimension within 2 views. It really depends, I guess, on your part. But for the most part, as you look at like my drawings as I go down below, most of my dimensions are, I don't even have dimensions on that yet, are based upon just 2 views. Okay, so let's go back to my first sheet here and let's start to put in my dimensions. So I need to know all of my height information, and I want to group my height information together if possible. So I'm going to pull my 0.375 off of here. That also helps define what the height is over here. I need to know what the height is of this part down here. I also need to know what the height is between here and here. So I could either dimension this here to here, and I could just have all 3 of these things dimensioned in there and not include an overall dimension. Or I can delete that and I can include an overall dimension, which personally I like overall dimensions for objects. It's nice to be able to see the overall size. So now we know that the top is 0.375 high, that the bottom is 0.375, and that the entire thing is 1 1/4 or 1 1/8 inches high, or 1.125. And if you did the math and you did the subtraction, you would know that that's also 0.375 wide. Now that really accounts for all of my heights. I don't need any more height information in the rights. All of the information involved in this drawing, height-wise, is in my front view. So that's good. I also am going to put all of my length information in my front view. The more information you can put in your front view, the better. So the distance between here and here is 3/8 of an inch, and then the distance between the end and here is 0.75, you know, and we should see gaps between our extension lines and our object lines, gaps. Okay, so now I have all of my length information listed. So I have all my heights, I have all of my lengths, so the only thing that's left is my depth. So I could label my depth in the top view, or I could label it in the side view. Which view do you think is best to label it? If you said the side view, then you're correct. The reason why the top view is not so great is because there's hidden lines here, or I guess we could put it on the side. I'm going to put mine in the side view over here. You do not want to dimension to hidden lines. Okay, so when we go to dimension this, I'm going to select from here to here. And again, I'm going to drop that 0.375 in there. And then I'm going to dimension between here and here. I'm going to dimension that there. So I know now that it's 0.375 to here, and 0.75 to the entirety. And again, if I did that math, this would be 0.375. That is all the dimensions that are necessary for my purple part. So I name it. I make sure my scale is accurate, which 2:1 is what my scale is. And I have my purple isometric. I'm ready to move on to the next. So here again, this is my most descriptive view. So that's my front. I have all of my heights. I have all of my lengths. And I have my depth. Here, this is my most descriptive view. I have all of my lengths, all of my heights, all of my depths. This one I haven't dimensioned yet, so let's do that together. The height from here to here is 0.375. The overall height is 0.75. The distance from here to here is 0.375 in length. And the distance from here to here is 0.750 in length. So I have, again, my lengths and my heights. All I need now is my depths, which again, I could put that in my top view, but I can't select a hidden line, so I'm going to put this in my side view. The other thing you want to avoid is like put the dimensions on the side of the object. So like let's take a look here, for instance. So here I've dimensioned on the bottom, while over here I've dimensioned on the top. And the reason being is because there's an object line down here closer to the bottom, where if I dimensioned it at the top, then I would have this like extension line running through my part, which isn't awful, but it's not ideal, you know? So if you can avoid running extension lines through your part because like the line comes to the edge, then that's great. But we do want to try and group things together whenever possible. So here I've run both of my dimensions on the bottom for my length, and then for my depth dimensions I've put them on the top because, you know, that's what I did. Honestly though, in retrospect, I could dimension easily down here and down here. So, you know, like one thing that is important is that like duplicate dimensions does not mean like that they're the same numbers. Like, despite the fact that honestly these dimensions look exactly the same, one is referencing the length of the object, which is from the left side to the right side, while the other is referencing the depth of the object, which is from the front to the back. Okay, so they're the same numbers, even basically the same layout, but they reference two completely different dimensions. So that's why they're not a duplicate dimension. Where if I had a dimension up here and here, this is that exact dimension, this is that exact dimension, because this is measuring the distance at the top, and this is measuring the distance, but they're both the depth, from front to back, they're both the depth. So those are duplicate dimensions. I only need one set of them. Okay, and I don't really want some of it up here and some of it down there. Group your dimensions together. Okay, so that's a really quick overview of the drawings for this project. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out to me. Okay.